welcome to another project analysis series. Today we are going to talk about Robertson Opus. So Robertson Opus is actually the former Robertson Walk. I believe many of you would have many beautiful memories there, your first dates, your dinners, your drinks. This was the place where it was more popular for its night scene. And right now, it is going to be redeveloped from a service apartment into a fully residential place. This is actually not a government land sale. This is a 999 years leasehold development. In fact, you can see from this article that CEO of Frasers Place actually says that they feel that now is actually the right opportunity to unlock the highest and best use returns for their prime site in the heart of Robertson Quay. A lot of you who are actually similar age or maybe slightly more mature than me feel some form of attachment to this place. I think this place is quite iconic in Singapore, and it being torn down is quite sad. As I'm on this page, I would also like to invite you to join me on my community in my Telegram channel, because this is where I'll share real life information or some dropout units that potentially sometimes developers might have. Sometimes I also share my thoughts on some of the news articles, and this is where you will be able to get first-hand information from me. Apart from that, do remember to like and subscribe to my channel, because this is one of many CCR projects that I'll be analyzing in the few months to come. I think it is important for you, if you really want analysis and on-the-ground knowledge and experience based on CCR properties, and you want to make sure your purchase is the right one. We are going to talk about the project info. This is a 999 year mixed-use development, which is formerly called Robertson Walk. So this is actually developed by Frasers Properties and Sekisui House. So Seikisui House actually formerly developed seaside residences as well. And if you have drove past or you have been to this project, you will know that it's actually quite a well-built project, and it is also a very profitable project in the resale market. A total of 348 residential units, and they will also have some commercial space on the first floor. Its TOP will be roughly in Q2 2020. As for the car park lots, I don't think you should be very concerned, even though there is 80% of the car park lots, but it being so near to the Fort Canning MRT, most people who are staying there will take the MRT instead. So in terms of parking, I wouldn't feel that it is so much of an issue. On the first top left-hand corner is actually the Robertson Walk. It has ceased operation in the last day of May. I remember going for the last drink with my team, and this is called the courtyard. It's actually quite a memorable place, and when I went there, it was actually quite lively. I think quite a lot of people will still want to have the last glimpse of this beautiful place. So they are, as much as possible, trying to retain the original courtyard. Because of how the residential units are being arranged, the units are all facing inwards, and it is built some sort of like a box. There is this void area in the center. And when I saw this, I'm not so sure whether there will be a lot of noise or not, because commercial space is on the first floor. If noise is something that you are particular about, then I would advise you to pick the outward facing stacks first, for peace of mind. Here is the site plan. There are two main facings, facing outside and facing inside, like what I mentioned. The ones that are facing inside, I would feel that it is more premium, because the developers actually put the bigger unit, which is the 4-bedroom, facing the pool. I just want to show you the master plan. Robertson Opus is actually the blue color site currently. Right beside that is the pier at Robertson. This is also a commercial with residential on top, freehold as well. The next one is UE Square Residences, a little bit special in terms of the tenure, 929 years, as good as freehold. This is also a commercial with residential on top. So Robertson Opus will be no stranger to the surrounding. There are still commercial spaces being supported. So do not be too concerned if, let's say, you're somebody who emphasizes a lot on the commercial spaces, because if Robertson Opus doesn't offer you enough amenities, I believe the surrounding two projects will be able to offer you a wider array of amenities. You see over here that based on Robertson Opus and the surrounding projects, it is quite maximized already. So in terms of the potential land that is going to build, unless it's going through en bloc. If not, you will not expect any form of new developments over here. However, if you move closer to the Great World City area, recently there have been quite a few GLS that has been bidded and going to launch. The first one that is going to be launched will be River Green. This is a 3.5 plot ratio. For context, 3.5 plot ratio, the surrounding developments, their average floor levels can reach about 30 plus levels. Then the next one that is also successfully bidded is the one at Promenade Peak. 5.6 is definitely going to be much taller than River Green. So if River Green is 30 plus stories, then this is going to be 40 plus stories. Then we also have plot B by All Green. This is going to be commercial right below and then residential on top. Last one that has been successfully bidded is the River Valley plot B by Guaco Land. The plot ratio is actually 3.5. You can see that for the plot ratios for the upcoming launches, it ranges from 5.6 to 7.2, which tells us that it is going to be very high-rise developments. What does it actually mean to you? If we are going to look at 7.2 plot ratio, right, 7.2 is actually quite comparable to Canning Hill Piers. Canning Hill Piers is within 500 meters and they have built up to 48 stories. The price range, the lowest price is 2,685 per square foot and the highest is 3,567 per square foot. So this is actually a $900 per square foot difference, which essentially means that from the lowest floor to the highest floor, there is about a 33% difference in terms of per square foot, which means that upcoming River Green, and being such a high-rise development, right, if they were to launch at about 3,000 per square foot, for example, the prices can go all the way up to 4,001, 4,200 per square foot, meaning this cluster of new launches are going to set the new benchmark price in terms of per square foot. Now, if you're somebody who's looking to invest and can afford to wait and you're not in a hurry to jump in, right, with so many new launches that are coming, which one is actually worth to buy? If you're also wondering the same,
Hello everyone. Remember to like and subscribe to my mama channel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Stay tuned to my channel because I will definitely be able to give you more insights and more clarity, because every project that is going to come here, especially in the CCR area, there is the entry level, there is the Lux, there is the Super Lux, there is the Ultra Lux. There are different ways in terms of how we are going to analyze each properties. And in terms of the CCR area, is also categorized in so many different sectors. Some areas of CCR are actually the areas that you want to avoid, and some of the areas are definitely much more sought after. So if you're somebody who is not so sure, not very clear on how to navigate, stay tuned to my channel or contact me at my number below and we can chat. Going back to Robertson Opus, which was the main reason why we are watching this video, Robertson Opus average floor levels is 9 to 10 stories, meaning as compared to the high-rise developments that we have seen earlier in the Zion Road area, this is going to be very different in terms of pricing strategy. Because of the 4 plots of land that are going to launch in the Zion Road and River Valley area, these are our high-rise neighbors that will tend to push our per square foot up. So Robertson Opus being a mid-rise development, I feel that some units, their entry price might be comparable or maybe slightly lower as compared to the 99 years super high floor neighbors. Not saying the low floor ones, but if today you are somebody who wants high floor units, or you are actually considering between 99 or freehold, there might be a chance whereby the 99 and freehold might be very comparable in terms of price. Let's talk about the unit mix, because this will tell us who this place is built for. So first we have 1 bedroom and the suite. This makes up to about close to 20% of the entire unit mix. Understandable, because if you look at the previous launches like Canning Hill Piers, this project, which is very near to us, During the launch day, the most number of units that were being sold were the one bedrooms. I think there are still people who prefer to stay in this area that are single. Next, we have the two bedrooms, which form the biggest chunk, 34% of the entire unit mix. This is where the developers are really banging on strong demand. However, now if you are an investor looking towards the one and the two bedrooms, I would advise you to generally be more aware because like what I mentioned, 4 plots of land coming up, there will be quite a lot of units to choose from. So in terms of smaller units, definitely the most important thing that we want to look at is entry price and rental yield. Next, we have the 3 bedrooms form up to about 32%. And the last one, the 4 bedroom premium, actually surprised me the most because there are only 9 units, one particular stack. It kind of surprises me because when I look through the surrounding developments like Canning Hill Piers, like Avenir, during the beginning of the launch period, the 4 bedrooms and the 5 bedrooms are the ones that get sold like hotcakes. And the buyers that are buying there, they don't buy from the lowest floor. They buy from the highest floor, top down. You see, over here they buy 30 plus floor, 30 plus floor. So these buyers are the ones that are looking for own stay. That's why I was a bit surprised because the developers only built 9 of such units. Just last year, I transacted a 4 bedroom in Rivergate, and I can say that the response there is very, very good. There are still quite a strong demand for people who are looking at huge floor plate, 4 bedrooms facing the river. These are the people that are very keen in coming into this location. With that being said, there are a lot of small units, just a few big units, and I think this will form the story of Robertson Opus. Make sure your game plan matches the real scarcity because this is where you will be able to benefit the most, and that's the reason for this video as well. I'm going to start from the smallest layout, which is the 1 bedroom. For the 1 bedroom, there is 2 main categories. The first is suite, the second is 1 bedroom. Where is the difference? In terms of suite, there are 2 main layouts. The first is S1 and the second is S1A. Actually, not much difference in terms of the floor plan. So let's take S1 as reference. You can see from here that this is a typical studio unit. That means living room and master bedroom actually shares a space. Next, we are going to look at the 1 bedroom. The main difference between the studio and the 1 bedroom is actually this particular wall over here. However, the difference between these two sizes is suite is 431 square feet and 1 bedroom is 495 square feet. The suite is facing the outside and 1 bedroom will be facing towards the inward facing, which is the pool area. The inward facing 1 bedroom will definitely have a more premium view. As a 1 bedroom investor today, you probably are thinking between the 431 square feet and 495 square feet, which actually will make more sense in terms of investment. Because everything that we're talking about in today's new launch market, every square feet that it's accounted into the floor plan, it actually makes a lot of difference. Because if I were to base an average per square foot starting price for Robertson Opus at 3,200 per square foot, the size difference is about 64 square feet, assuming both is 3,200 per square foot. I did up a calculation, assuming that both starting per square foot is at 3,200 per square foot. For suite, the price worked out to be 1.379 million, whereas for the 1 bedroom, 495 square feet at 3,200 per square foot, it is 1.54 million. Now remember just now I mentioned that between the suite and the 1 bedroom there is 2 different facings. So 1 bedroom being inward facing will definitely more or less command a higher premium. Although I'm not sure how much the developer will price the inward facing units, but if I were to do a $50 per square foot increment, you can see that the price has gone up to $1.6 million. Now, for a suite to be about 430 to 495 square feet, and Robertson Opus being a project that is non-harmonized, actually belongs to quite a relatively big unit. And today, 495 square feet unit, you add on a bit in terms of the size, can sometimes be in a lot of 2 bed, 1 bath setting in a harmonized project. So remember, I actually mentioned there are possibly 3 to 4 launches coming under the harmonized project. The only thing that you probably need to take note is based on a 495 square feet, it will be relatively close to the size of a harmonized project 2-bed 1-bath. There is a high possibility that at this quantum of $1.6 million, it will be somewhat very similar to a 2-bed 1-bath or a 2-bedroom in the River Valley area, in the Zion Road area. With that being said, if you're someone who just wants to buy a 999-year 1-bedroom unit for investment, right, then which will actually make more sense? I'm going to base it on the price difference between the suite and 1-bedroom. There is about 60 square feet difference, which works out to be $200,000 more for these two layouts. If I work out $50 per square foot higher, the overall quantum is $229,000 more when we compare these two floor plans. Why do I want to work this out? Because I want to know in terms of rental yield, does it make sense or not? We all know that in terms of the CCR area, there is not much difference in terms of the rental that you can collect between a suite, that means a studio, versus a 1-bedroom. If I base both on very similar average per square foot, here is how the rental yield will be. I base it on these two near projects, which is within 300 and 400 meters from Robertson Opus. These two projects is Avenir and Riviera. Now we are very aware that in the River Valley area, there are a lot more projects available. Like what I mentioned in my earlier video on One Marina Gardens, one of the important things to look at when investing in a 1-bedroom is the rental yield. Why is it important to have a good rental yield? Because in the resale market, next time when we want to sell in the future, our next buyer will more or less be an investor. They are most likely going to look at collecting the best rental. Definitely when an investor wants to look at a 1-bedroom, they will compare between all the different areas and which one can potentially help them to fetch the highest rental yield. We often say that whenever there is a low supply of units available, whether it is for sale or for rent, it will most likely help us command a better selling price and better rental. When I look at the CCR area, it does not behave in a similar way. I did a comparison between River Valley and Marina Bay. I took this data, which is within 500 meters, projects that are more than 150 units. The average rental yield for Opus should be about 3.3% depending on the entry price. In Marina Bay, their average rental yield is about 4%. Now in terms of supply, you can see that even though River Valley only has 12% of 1-bedroom units as compared to Marina Bay, which has 35%, Marina Bay still is able to command a higher rental yield. The reason why it's important is because it doesn't mean that if you are in a high supply place, your rental yield will go down. In this case, when we look and compare between River Valley and Marina Bay has much more supply, but is still able to command a much higher rental yield. And the only reason why is because in that area, the consumer behavior there, the people who are staying there are most likely going to stay in a 1-bedroom. So why I want to drive this across is because when we want to look at a 1-bedroom, the most important part to ensure the purchase is safer is to focus on the rental yield. Moving on to the 2-bedrooms in Robertson Opus, the smallest unit type here is the 2-bed 2-bath. We can notice that the smallest unit is at 689 square feet. In today's sense, is actually considered quite big. Because why? Those harmonized projects, the smallest 2-bedrooms sometimes can be at about 500 plus square feet. Over here, we are going to expect that the overall quantum for the 2-bedrooms are going to be higher as compared to our neighboring upcoming projects. First, let us look at Type B1 floor plan, which is 721 square feet. The Type B1 has the best layout in comparison to the rest. It definitely checks all the boxes in a good 2-bedroom. You have a kitchen that is semi-enclosed. You have window and you have a glass panel over here. So the kitchen is going to be well lit. When we look at a 2-bedroom, in terms of configuration, it is not easy to find a 2-bed 2-bath that has windows in the bathrooms. But this actually provides you the provision whereby both of the bathrooms comes with their individual windows. We are moving on to type B2. Type B2 has a kitchenette along the walkway. Definitely in comparison, it is not going to be so nice as compared to the 721 square feet. But bear in mind, type B2 is the smallest floor plan in terms of the 2-bed, 2-bath. The type B2 also facing outside. In terms of affordability, it is definitely going to be one of the most affordable in the 2-bed, 2-bath context. Next, we are moving on to type B3 is 710 square feet. Now, the main difference between the type B3 to the earlier 2 floor plans is this kitchen is on both sides, and this foyer area will provide you with more privacy as compared to the previous 2 floor plans over here. Because this is L-shaped, there is no window in the common bathroom. And as for the master bath, there is actually window over here, which the 689 square feet does not have. I would say that between 689 and 710 square feet, if you're somebody who prefers more privacy, then you can choose 710 square feet. Moving on to the next 4 floor plans of the 2-bed, 2-bath, we have the type B4, which is 721 square feet. This is very similar to the type B1 earlier, except that the bathroom and kitchen does not come with windows. Then we have the type B5, 721 square feet as well. This floor plan is quite similar to the type B4, but the kitchen is the main difference. Type B6 and 21 square feet as well. This is a kitchenette along the walkway. The difference between this to the previous one is the bathroom actually comes with windows. Last, we have the type B7, which is the biggest 2-bed, 2-bath in the entire 2-bedroom. Is actually the 2+ study. The main difference compared to the others, of course, is the study area. However, there's one thing that you also want to note, and that is the kitchen as well as the bathrooms does not come with windows. Type B7 definitely going to be the highest quantum compared to all the previous 2 bedrooms, not just in terms of size, but because the B7 is located on the widest distance of the block. But compared between these 2 different facings, I will feel that stack 21 and 28 are going to be darker as compared to the 2 stacks over here, because this has an opening over here. Definitely there's still light that comes in as compared to this, which is the deeper end of the development. To sum up, my top choice for the 2 bedrooms will be in this sequence. My first choice will definitely be type B1. Type B1 is the only floor plan that has the best provision. That is windows in the kitchen and the bathrooms. The bedrooms are also tucked into one side. So this is the only floor plan in Opus that is very special. In terms of resellability, definitely as compared to all the rest of the different floor plans, it is the only one that has this configuration. The rest are either they have no windows in the kitchen, in the bathrooms, or they come with a kitchenette along the walkway. However, because type B1 is located on block 15, so block 15 generally has a higher ceiling, 3.325 meters, and the rest is, I think, about 2.8 meters. So type B1 is definitely going to give off a more luxurious feeling due to the higher ceiling height, a better configuration in terms of the floor plan. Not so sure how the developers will actually price their units. My next choice will be the type B2. You might be wondering why is it that I choose this floor plan. It's because this floor plan is going to be the smallest 2-bed, 2-bath in the entire Robertson Opus. In terms of affordability, it could most likely make sense if you are somebody who actually prefers to have the higher rental yield. Then the 689 square feet would be something that you can look at. So between these 2 floor plans, this is how I will choose during launch day if I'm an investor who is looking to max out my rental yield. The first part is to check the per square foot difference between type B1 and B2. For example, the type B1 and type B2 is 3,300 per square foot. If both per square foot is the same, then I would definitely choose the type B1 layout, because it is the only floor plan in Robertson Opus that has these attributes that is very attractive in what the resale buyers who are looking for own stay and staying in River Valley will look at. However, let's say during launch day, this per square foot is $3,200 per square foot, and this is $3,400 per square foot. then I would definitely opt for the 3,200 per square foot, 689 square feet unit. Let's say these two units are actually 200 per square foot difference. If you were to work out based on the calculation, choosing the 689 square feet will essentially help you to save up to $100,000 to $200,000 in terms of the overall quantum. If you're looking at renting out, then in terms of rental yield, is definitely going to make a very big difference. My third choice unit is actually the Type B7. This is a 2+ study. Even though the study is not actually considered very big, but because there's only 32 units of such, there will still be people who want space but can't go to a 3-bedroom because the quantum jump for Robertson Opus is going to be so huge. Then they will opt for the 2+ study. In terms of resellability, it will still be something that resale buyers will sought after. The last layout that I'm looking at will be the Type B4. It's very similar to what Type B1 is. It's just that there is no window in the kitchen and master bath. So if I were to compare this to the Type B1, when you want to sell in the future, it is going to be the second choice. The rest of units, which I did not include the floor plans here because those are just open concept kitchen. So this will be my least favorite in Robertson Opus. We have quite a lot of floor plans that we are looking at in terms of the 3-bedroom. Let us look at the 3-bedroom Flexi, which is the smallest 3-bedroom units in the entire Robertson Opus. There are two main layouts, C1 and C2, 926 square feet and 980 square feet. In terms of facing, you can see that both are quite similar, except that I feel Type C2 will be less private because these units will be closer to the opposite block. Between the 926 and 980 square feet, I have a preference for the 926 square feet because the size difference between the 926 and 980 square feet is 64 square feet. The main difference is actually in the balcony area in the master bedroom. So 64 square feet, if I multiply by $3,200, it works out to be about $204,000. So $204,000, you get an extra balcony, which is very much closer to the block right beside us. So I don't feel that it is actually what I would prefer. Then we move on to the bigger unit types. So in terms of 3-bedroom Flexi, there are 3 other layouts which range from 1012 square feet all the way to 1044 square feet, C3, C4, C5. These are the bigger 3-bedroom Flexi units. The biggest difference between these 3 floor plans compared to the previous 2 is actually the bigger foyer space over here. So if you are someone who actually prefers more privacy, then you would prefer these units more. But take into account that, as usual, if you are somebody who actually doesn't mind the 999 years to the 99 years, the upcoming launches, usually these size will come with their own WC. Now, if I were to compare these 5 different floor plans, I have put together these 2 units together. That is the 980 square feet and 1012 square feet. Why I choose these 2 floor plans is if you're somebody who prefers more privacy, then my preference is to choose the 1012 square feet because the 1012 square feet is not very big difference as compared to the smaller 980 square feet. The size difference is only 32 square feet, which means that the overall quantum is only $102,000. For this extra privacy, I feel that it is still not out of reach. It's still something that future resale buyers will be able to accept. We are going to move on to the 3-bedroom premium. The 3-bedroom premium is actually the largest over here, 1152 square feet. In terms of layout between the Type C1 and C2, both are very similar. The only difference between these 2 unit types is the different facing. C2 in comparison likely going to command a higher per square foot as compared to Type C1 because it is inward facing. If I were to look into Type C2, what I like about this floor plan is actually walking in, you'll be able to see this kitchen. Now, this is actually the show flat unit type. So if you visit the show flat, you'll be able to see and feel for yourself. The kitchen, the way the developers built is there is 2 sliding panels over here, which means that in the event when you prefer an enclosed kitchen because you want to do some heavy cooking, these sliding panels can be slide and make into an enclosed kitchen. If you have guests and you like to host, these 2 panels over here can actually be slide open and you have a very huge living space to entertain. And why is it important? Because in this area, a lot of people actually prefer luxury. And this open plan is something that buyers who are buying into this area will prefer. If you are someone who actually prefers a landscape format living area, because this floor plan is not PPVC, this bedroom tree can actually be hacked down. So if you like to entertain, you still prefer something that is above 1,100 square feet, you just need 2 bedrooms, I think this floor plan is really perfect for you. It also has a separate household shelter and WC over here. This floor plan still has a flexi room. There is a lot of times whereby I serve a lot of CCR buyers. They actually like 3 bedrooms, but the newer developments do not offer a household shelter for storeroom and a separate space for the helper to sleep in. So in this sense, I feel that this floor plan is actually very favorable because there will still be a lot of buyers who does not prefer the older developments. They want the newer developments but cannot find this kind of provision. Robertson Opus actually has this good layout that can cater to people who still want newer developments, they still want storeroom, and they want a separate room that their helper can stay in. My top choice verdict for the 3 bedrooms is the 1152 square feet and also the 926 square feet. So even though the 926 square feet is not as appealing to what the 1152 square feet layout is, but in terms of affordability, if you're someone who still only wants 999 years of freehold developments to stay in, if you have some budget constraints, then the 926 floor plan is definitely something you can consider. There is this very special floor plan in Robertson Opus, which is called the 3-bedroom dual flex. It's something that incorporates 2 bedrooms on one side and a single studio unit on the other side. Now, this floor plan is a little bit more special because the master bathroom actually is being shared by the bedroom over here. And then there is this kitchen along the walkway. Moving on to the 4-bedroom floor plans, the biggest unit type that Robertson Opus have, sadly only got 9 of such units. This is 1539 square feet. Going to have a very nice pool view. The floor plan is one of the nicest. It comes with a good size living and dining area. You can definitely put in at least a 8-seater dining table. And the living space is very wide. They have a junior master. If you have a family who is on the bigger side, you want to have some privacy for the younger couple staying with you or your elderly parents who prefer some privacy. I like that this is tucked away from the rest of the bedrooms. Nothing to complain about in terms of the kitchen and bedrooms. Moving on to the master bedroom, definitely very spacious. It also has a walk-in wardrobe over here. Has a master bath with his and her sink. I think the only thing to complain is there's only 9 units. So last December, I actually sold a 4-bedroom in Rivergate, which, if you're familiar, is right across the street. The 4 bedrooms over there, resale, 1,894 square feet, close to 1,900 square feet. It was sold at about 5.88, close to $6 million. I can tell you in terms of showings, in terms of viewings, in terms of enquiries, it is very healthy. Every week, I have 4 to 5 enquiries. I have viewings almost every week. So definitely, I would say that there is still a lot of demand when it comes to the 4 bedrooms in this area. But bear in mind that there is very limited supply of regular size unit. Even in Rivergate itself, there is 2 main configurations. One is the 1894 square feet, which maybe sometimes people might think is small, and the other one is 2,000 square feet. The configuration for 2,000 plus square feet is still a bit odd as compared to the 1894 square feet, which is very regular in terms of the floor plan. The 1894 square feet is so highly sought after that in terms of resale value, it managed to command a much higher per square foot as compared to the bigger size, even though it is 2,000 over square feet. But because there is this odd shape. Now when I see this 4-bedroom premium in the Robertson Opus, I think this floor plan is still something that can accept. Why do I want to touch on Rivergate? You see over here, the resale listing starts from 5.2 million. 5.2 million is usually the 2,000 over square feet. It has odd shape. It is not as favorable, so not very nice in terms of the entire configuration, and therefore command a lesser premium as compared to the perfectly squarish one. Why do I want to talk about Rivergate? This is actually the supply of the nearby projects in the River Valley area that is available. If I actually filter it through freehold properties or 999 years. So based on today's filming, there should be about 14 listings, not excluding duplicate listings. You can see over here that Martin Place Residences, there is only one listing for sale. For older project, TOP is in 2021. Aspen Heights is much older, TOP 1998. The asking price is about 3.5 million, but bear in mind this is way old. The only closer comparison is actually Avenir, TOP 2024. The resale listing there is about $8 million. So as for Rivergate is $5.2 million, but these are the more odd-shaped listings. Now I look through the entire River Valley area, you can see that there is a gap for 4 bedrooms. So that's why I feel that the 4 bedrooms are definitely something that you can look at. The only downside is this 4-bedroom premium doesn't have any private lift. I marketed Rivergate. It was really easy to sell. There was no private lift, so I don't see that there is really much issue in this area. If you are looking at a 4-bedroom premium, definitely go for it. Not forgetting Canning Hill Piers and Avenir. These 2 projects during launch day sold quite a lot of 4 bedrooms, and you can see their prices are all around $5 million to $7 million. So if let's say developer were to command the price of 3,200 per square foot, 4.9 million. I feel that there is still this huge price gap that can match into what the River Valley buyers will still be willing to buy into. With that, I end off today's sharing about Robertson Opus. If you wish to have updates on Robertson Opus and professional advice on this project, as well as what is the positioning for you if you want to enter as a buyer for Robertson Opus versus the future launches in District 9 and 10, reach out to me and my contact method below. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video.